When you pray, are you for real?
Welcome to the Effectual Prayer. I'm your host, AC Nelson, here today with the opportunity to interview DJavon Holland. Now, I'm going to give him the opportunity to introduce himself, but I kind of want to let you guys know why we're here. Everybody has a story, right? Everybody has their own narrative in which they realize that God is indeed real, that Jesus really is the Savior, that the Holy Spirit is here to comfort us. Some of us feel like we've gone through some things until we hear somebody else's story, and that story can sometimes give us perspective as to really how good and merciful God is. That's where I'm at right now. When I heard the story of this brother DJavon, and I want to give him this platform to share who he is and to show us how he journeyed from his past to victory. Now, I have a whole lot of questions for him, but I want him to introduce himself to you, and then we can dig into the questions. DJavon?
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is DJavon Holland. I'm the owner of Breezework Publishing. I publish 4 books. I'm also have clothing on Amazon that I sell.
That's right. Yes, I know you have your book called Out of the State, and I just kind of want to know how the book came about, what took place in your past that even brought this book to fruition.
My journey, it's been a journey of a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes in life. Life, I like to tell everybody, it doesn't come with a manuscript. And being as though life doesn't come with a manuscript, mistakes is going to be made. Some more costly than others. And during my lifetime, I made some costly mistakes. From the time I was 16, on up. I made costly mistakes that cost me, jail time, going back and forth through incarceration, and it's a lot of Black men, that's going through or has been through incarceration, and it becomes from basically choices that we make. Some choices is conscious choices, some choices is spur of the moment choices, but it's choices that when we do get in incarceration, a lot of men be like, man, why did I do that,
So at 16, you found yourself incarcerated, as you say. How long were you put away at 16 years old?
Well, 16 years old, I was incarcerated. I did 6 months at that time. 6 months. That was my first time ever being locked up. Nassau County for 6 months. I came home and when I was 17, and then not even a year later, well, about a year later, when I was 18, I was right back incarcerated. So,
wow.
But 16 is when, everything started as far as incarceration for me.
So what do you think at that, what do you believe took you to that, I don't know if you call it a negative path. I don't know what, how you view it, but what do you think kind of led you down that path of incarceration, or locked up, locked up?
Well, the biggest thing, that led me to incarceration was finances. That's what led me to incarceration, the lack of money, and even as a teenager, there's certain things in life that you want, like for me, it was, coming up 13, the biggest thing, I'm from New York, Long Island, Wyandanch, New York. The biggest thing during that time in the late 90s was Pokemon cards. So everybody in the neighborhood had Pokemon cards, and you had to catch them all, and to get the Charizards and all that, the Bulbasaurs and all that, it was expensive, So it go off or wanting things like Pokemon, Sega Genesis, you know, and the Super Nintendos, and '97 is when the first PlayStation came out, and then, you know, 2000 is when the first PlayStation 2 and all that came out, you know. So there's certain things that you wanted, and not being able to have these things, you know, or not being able to ask for these things because you know the type of situation that you know you was living in, where you know your parents couldn't necessarily afford this, from being single parents, you know, or having to pay rent, you know. Like a lot of people, I know me myself, I hate hearing the word no. So instead of me, you know, asking a person knowing that I'm gonna hear no, I rather do something to go get it myself. And don't get me wrong, at the age of 12, you know, I was working, you know, I do odd jobs, even around church, close doors for the church, you know, or, you know, rake yards or things like that for a little odd money, you know, but that only gets you but so much. And in the environment that I was in, you know, yeah, that was a positive way, but the environment that I was in show you another way, you know, like, look, if you could, you know, take this, you can get it faster, you know, or you can hustle this, you can get it faster, you know. So seeing those things, you know, it made me, all right, this is a way to get $1. Let me try this, you know. And, you know, it wasn't necessarily the choices that I made wasn't because that I was necessarily bad at heart. It was because of, you know, basically lack of things and lack of knowledge on how to get these things in a better way, that I chose the path that I chose.
So you mentioned single home. Did you grow up in a single parent home?
Well, my mother, you know, she basically raised me by herself, you know. She you know, like a lot of black women, you know, was, you know, in a relationship, out of relationship, in relationship, out of relationship, you know. And, you know, my mother's been married, divorced, you know, so, you know, dealing with that, you know, basically she raised me, you know. You know, men would be there, but, you know, men will not be there, you know. So it was basically her consistently raising me, you know. So that's what I would call, you know, single parent.
Yeah. So, like, was there like a set group of individuals outside the home that even attempted to like mentor you? Like, did you have a church home? Did you have, if it wasn't church, was it like a group of boys that tried to mentor you, a group of young men that tried to mentor you, whether it be positive or negative?
Oh yeah, it was like one thing, like especially now being a man, I always look back at my past, and even though I didn't have my father figured it, which by the way, my father just passed last year.
Wow.
Last year he passed like the beginning of when Corona started, you know. And
Sorry.
that was, you know, it was a heartbreak for me because I never really knew my dad. And I, you know, everybody that I tell when they ask about my father, I could tell you, I could count on one finger how many times I've seen my father, you know, in my life. And when he did die, it still hurted because even though I didn't know you when you was here, you know what I'm saying? I feel bad that I never had that chance, you know, to know you or be raised by that man. So I always look back at my past and look at the men that was in my life. And yeah, I was raised in the church, you know, Pastor Porter, you know, that was a big figure in my life. Pastor Talbert, who recently passed away. This is another pastor in New York. Was another big figure in my life. You know, I was, you know, in church on usher board, you know, Brother Hans, you know, even with men that my mother was in relationships with, you know, my brother's father, who she was married to, Roger, you know, who you know, sad to say, he passed, you know, at an early age. And but this was one of the biggest male figures that I had in my life, you know, which was around the age of 10. And even though he wasn't my father, he taught me a lot of things like how a father would teach, And at the time, I didn't understand the lessons, because I was only 10, and every man that was a boy at one time growing up in a single parent home, I believe we all go through this as a little bit of rebellion towards anybody that's not particularly our father,
Right.
and stuff. So I had a lot of male figures in my life come along. Reginald H. Flowers, a guy, that I worked for at a barbershop, and the list could go on and on. Even though I didn't have my father, I had a lot of father figures and male figures that came along in my life to help me piece together who a man is and how a man should be.
Wow. Do you have children?
Yes, I have 2 kids.
So since your father wasn't there, has that made you or kind of, I guess, shape the way that you try to father your children?
Yes, it does, because, since I was young, I always, promised myself, like, when I had kids, I always wanted to be there for my kids. I never not wanted to be there for my kids, and the person I had kids by, I wanted to be there with them,
Yeah.
and stuff. And, it had a big factor on what I wanted to do with my kids, the way me and my father's relationship was.
Got it. Okay, so you talked a little bit about being incarcerated. Like, did any of that take you away from your children at all? Like being locked away, did any of those times take you away from your children?
Yes, it did. Actually, when I was having my son, I got locked up before he was born. So I wasn't there for the for his birth all the way up to the age of 4. I wasn't there. So
okay. How did that make you feel?
That made me feel terrible, and it also made me feel motivated because, when I was 16 in jail, and then the second time when I was in jail, I went to jail from 18, came home when I was 26.
Okay.
And then when I did go back to jail again and I had a son, it made me say, hold on, now I got something, to fight, to come home to. I can't, keep playing around in this jail cell. I gotta get out of here this go around,
Wow. So I'm hearing you speak. So that was like, that particular time seemed like that was like a wake up call. Now I know a little bit about your story, but I know that you were like near death on one of these occasions. Can you kind of dig into that a little bit?
Yes. I was in Delaware and basically went up there. I was, dibbling and dabbling in the streets, had an altercation with a few guys, which it turned sour. I wound up getting stabbed. They wound up getting shot, and we all wound up going to the hospital,
Wow.
But during the time I was in the hospital, I had a collapsed lung, and it was basically, on the verge of not making it there, and stuff. But I pulled through, and when I pulled through, I wound up getting incarcerated, so a lot of my healing that I had to do from that incident was inside of a jail cell.
Man, so you said something right there. You said you had to heal inside of jail. Like, I'm thinking about it, not just the physical place of jail, but you were able to somehow be able to heal while being bound at the same time. I don't know how much fortitude it took for you to be able to go through that. It reminds me of the story of Joseph, from the Bible, when he was put away for such a long time and having to really deal with all of those things. How can you explain how you were able to journey in jail and get out? Can you explain how you kind of got the victory and got out of there?
Well, that's funny that you said the story of Joseph, because you know, kind of the same thing, like, you know, not the same situation on how Joseph got locked up, because Joseph was an innocent man that was just taken away. You know, his brothers basically sold him to captivity, you know, and stuff. So my incident is nowhere near like Joseph, but I did feel the same way that Joseph felt, that throughout all my incarcerational periods, I felt as though God was with me and God had a hand in there with me, you know, and and all my walk through there, God was constantly showing me who he was, you know, through the whole thing. And so I don't never wish jail on nobody, or don't never say that's a place for any human being to be, you know. But during the time while I was there, you know, God used that time, you know, to actually reveal himself to me, you know.
So who is God to you now? Like, who is he?
Shoot, God is exactly who he say he is. He said, God is life, you know, and God is life, you know, and definitely time and time again, you know, he brought me back from death multiple times, you know, so he truly showed me that he is life, you know.
Yeah, so what do you mean when you say he brought you back to death? Brought you back to life multiple times? You just gave us the one. So do you have any other times where he literally brought you back to life?
Yeah, like you got the time, like I say, I've been stabbed up, you know, and it wasn't like I was just stabbed one time. I was stabbed multiple times, you know, and you know, that was, you know, I was on the brink of death, you know, and he brought me back to that situation. When I was incarcerated, I was facing 242 years, you know, for that incident, you know.
Man, 242 years? That's more than your lifetime.
That's older than America. I think America, you know, just about turned 242 years last year. So, you know, that was basically a death sentence that he brought me out of, you know, and stuff. And then when I came home, you know, just in 2019, you know, I was shot in the head. You know, I was on my deathbed there.
So wait, you were out and then somebody shot you in the head?
Yes, I got shot in the head.
My God. 2019? Like
2019.
as in 2 years ago?
As in 2019.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
So
it's been God
is life.
God is definitely life, you know, and he showed me that he is life, you know, and you know, every day that I wake up, you know, he showed me I'm life, you know, and I'm just thankful, you know, for the lessons that he did, you know, bring into my life, you know, and continue to bring into my life, you know, because everything don't kill you. You know, not only does it make you stronger, it makes you wiser, you know?
Right. So can you give us some of those nuggets that you've learned over the years? I mean, you're saying like God is life and you've learned so much from your mistakes. Give us some of those nuggets that God has taught you over the years. Can you give me at least two?
Yeah, I can, you know, give you a lot, you know?
All right, come on, let's get it.
Well, you know, some of the main things that God has taught me, you know, and I've always been a questioner since a young age of who God is, what life is about, you know, why are we here? And, you know, these have always been questions that, you know, some people just ask them and just go along with life. These are questions that always burnt within me, you know. Why is life like this? You know what I'm saying? What is my relationship with God? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you say that we friends, but why is our relationship like this? I don't want you to just feel like a fairy tale to me. You know, I want this to seem real, you know, like, come on, this life is real and life is kicking me in my butt every day. You know, I need some real life help. I need some assistance, you know? And one of the greatest lessons that God has taught me is be the help to yourself that you're always crying for. You know, that is one of the greatest lessons that he taught me. Why? Because he's shown me that everything that I actually cry out to him for help for, he has instilled it within me, you know, to already conquer these situations, you know? So it just takes a little bit of using my brain or making better choices or making better decisions, you know, to overcome certain things and certain obstacles that come about, you know, and anything that comes along that's more than I can bear, he'll be right there to help me along that journey.
So as you definitely you've definitely leaned on God, I'm sure, to help you through that experience. And so now you are an author. Now you here with me talking. How do you pour back into, I guess, you know, your community now that you are free and you've learned so many lessons? How are you pouring back into the community now?
Well, my main thing is the youth, you know, and constantly working with the youth, teaching the youth, you know, especially young men and stuff, and trying to show them that the path that I went down, you don't have to go down, you know, the fire that I touch, you don't have to touch. I'm telling you, that fire is hot, you know, do not touch that fire, you know. And not only I'm telling them, I'm trying to show them, you know, and show them a better way. Look, there is a better way to do things, you know, and stuff. And take my example. If nothing else, they could take my example. Wow, this guy been through this guy been through that, this guy has been through this. He pretty much know that that's not the way to go, you know.
Right.
And a lot of times, you know, young people feel as though they don't have nobody that they can relate to.
Yeah.
You know, they feel as though, well, you never been through no situation like that, so how can you tell me not to do nothing like that, you know? So, you know, I just try to reach out when I do see brothers that's, you know, young brothers, even young sisters that's, you know, struggling with situations in their life, struggling with decisions to make, you know. I try to just give them that example, like, look, this is where I came from, you know, this is where I am now, and this is where I'm still striving to get to. You know, you don't have to go down that road, you know, to get to the place that you're trying to get to.
Now, you spoke about something earlier about how, as a young person, the draw for you was your lack. We have a lot of young people that are in impoverished neighborhoods where poverty is just rampant wherever. How do you encourage them, like specifically, how do you encourage them not to like do the, it's okay to have a good hustle, right? You know, like to be an entrepreneur, but not to be a hustler to where it might lead you down, you know, a negative path. How do you encourage that person? Like, look, I got to get this money. How do you get them back towards the right path? You know, like, no.
Well, in all honesty, you know, words is one thing, you know, and the best thing that I could do right now with all young people is encourage them with words until and this is why I said, you know, I came from somewhere, this is where I am now, and this is where I'm striving to go to, you know. And even with my books, you know, I'm still striving to get to a next level with the books, you know, and when I make it to that level, then I will have something actually to offer the kids so they could see, like, okay, now this brother, you know, not only has he been in the same shoes that I've been through, but he's made it to this point where he actually could take me out of the situation that I'm in, you know, and actually put me in another situation so I don't have to do the things that I'm doing now, you know. And it's hard. Yes, right now at the point I'm at, I could talk to young people and tell them, look, this is not the way to go, you know. But I actually am still working towards being that ultimate example, you know, of this is why you don't have to go that way, you know?
Yes.
And I'm the living end result of why you don't have to go that way. That journey is yet to be complete, but I'm definitely getting there.
Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about now. You're now an author. So how did Breezework come about?
Well, Breezework Publishing came about. I said it's basically came through everything that I've been through as far as with incarceration and you know, basically God helped me out of situations and you know, life struggles, you know, and things like that. That's the way Breezework Publishing came about, and Court Out of State was actually invented. You know, in actuality, Court Out of State, I was sitting in jail one day, and you know, I was listening to a seminar, and one thing that hit me hard was, you know, I heard a person say, what does a rich person and a poor person have in common? And I sat and I thought, I said, yeah, what do they have in common? I said, they have the same 24 hours in a day. That's what they have in common, you know? And what's the difference between a rich person and a poor person? What's the difference? How they utilize their 24 hours in a day, you know? Mm-hmm. So it sat back and it made me think, you know, even though I was incarcerated, I said, what do I have right now while I'm incarcerated? I said, well, I have time, you know?
Right,
I got 24 hours in a day. So I started to think like, well, what can I do with this 24 hours in a day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when I got to thinking about that, you know, I said, hey, man, I'm always crying, you know, and for life, you know, first of all, you know, to open up an opportunity for me, you know, and, you know, to help me go along a different path when I get out of here, you know, and stuff. And life is giving me that opportunity right now, you know.
Right.
I done lived the whole book, you know, and I know it, you know, and shoot, why don't I just write a book? And it's like, I never thought about writing a book before or anything, but when I sat down, it's like the universe just grabbed my hand and started writing for me, you know, and that's how Court Out of State came about, you know.
That's what's up. Do you have any other kind of books?
Yes, I also have children's books. I got a book called Wonderful Life, which is available on Amazon.com. I also have a book, Bedtime Numbers, children's books, which it's available on Amazon.com.
All right. And what about your clothing line that you mentioned earlier? So is that also available on Amazon?
Yes, Court Out of State. I got Court Out of State T-shirts, hoodies, throw pillows, tote bags, iPhone cases, all available on Amazon.com.
All right. And how can people like follow you on Instagram or Facebook? What do they have to search to find you?
You can catch me on IG, Instagram at Breezework_Publishing.
Okay.
Or you can catch me on Facebook at Breezework Publish.
Got it. Now I'm going to ask you another question. Court Out of State, that title, is that, I mean, that's, you got it on T-shirts, you got it on phones. What is that about? Like, Court Out of State? Like, I know we want to get the book, but what's that phrase? Like, Court Out of State?
Well, court out of state is like I said, it's dealing with, you know, basically my life and my life experiences. And I'm from New York. I lived in DC, I lived in Virginia, I lived in Delaware, and I've been caught in New York. I've been incarcerated in Maryland. I've been incarcerated in Delaware. So Basically, it's about being caught out of state.
Okay, because my mind went somewhere else. I'm like, caught out of state, caught out of a state of mind, caught out of state. Like, what does he mean by that? All
Well,
right.
you definitely could be caught out. You not only just caught out of state that way, you can definitely be caught out of your state of mind.
Yeah, I was like, what is that? And so I want to know if people have questions for you, how can they get in contact with you? Is it just through Instagram? Do you have an email, website?
Yeah. They can email at DJavon P Holland, DJavon P Holland 31@gmail.com. If anybody has any questions, they can feel free to hit me on Instagram. I take all questions, comments, concerns, complaints. You just want to tell me off, or tell me your story. I take it all. You hit me on Facebook. I listen to all types of stories.
All right. So you heard it here at the Effectual Prayer. DJavon is opening up himself to hear your story. Listen, as I always say, if you can tell your own story, nobody else has to tell it for you. Nobody can make up anything about it if you open it up and tell your story. The Word of God says that the truth shall make you free. Come on now, let's get free. All right, thank you. This has been another episode of the Effectual Prayer. Peace and blessings.